like the balance that they had in race.
Casey Kane, we congratulate him, his third career pole.
It's all three Hendrick Motorsports in the front.
There's a few movers and shakers out there.
To victory lane is Joey Logano.
Get the inside line on who's fast and who's last before setting your NASCAR fantasy race team this weekend. This is the Inside Line on MRN.com, presented by Hercules Tires. Now, here are your fantasy experts, Robbie Mays and Tyler Burnett.
Welcome to the Easter version of the Inside Line Fantasy Racing Show as we head to the Easter break in NASCAR. This is Rich Colbreth, Robbie Mays. You notice that our studio has gotten a little bit larger. I mean, with me in it, it can't get much more larger, but we've added a third person to our team this year, or this week.
Just be glad that I have downsized as much as I have in the last year.
You won't stop talking.
A year ago, this would not have fit.
No. We would have had to have a wide-angle lens.
Anyways, boys, we're heading to the Easter break, and we're here to talk fantasy racing as we do each and every Friday. And today's topics are mostly going to be talking about what we've seen so far in fantasy racing. So first off, let's start with Texas. What did you guys think of the Texas race?
I thought it was very entertaining. I thought it was able to keep my attention. I think with there were some strategies with the stages. There was some strategies with when people made pit stops, when they didn't make pit stops. To me, I was entertained for the full 500 miles. I know some races that we go to after repaves that the races aren't exactly great, but I thought Texas was a fun race to watch.
I was expecting something different. I was expecting to see guys losing control. We saw in practice, we just saw these guys just not be able to control these cars on this new surface. But I was expecting to see a whole lot of guys crash, and I just expected a crash fest, and it wasn't that way.
When was the last time we saw 4 backup cars for crashes that wasn't at a restrictor plate track?
And I was kind of surprised that the guys who started in the back, especially on a brand new surface, past cars got to the front. Dale Earnhardt Jr., Jimmy Johnson, those guys who started in the back of the field at Texas, they ran up front and got good fantasy points.
Kyle Larson, another one. He had to start in the back, and he made his way up to finish second. I mean, he was a great pick if you had him on your fantasy
Larson
team.
had to come from the back to the front a couple of different times. He had some problems throughout the course of the afternoon. But, hey, guys, let me ask you a question. What's wrong with the 48? Nothing.
Yeah, that was a pretty big win for Jimmy Johnson, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was big. I think you're going to have rough patches. You cannot in this sport maintain the type of consistency that Jimmy Johnson has had throughout his career and not have some rough patches. And whether that was actually a rough patch to start the season or not, it's only been 7 races since he won a race before last weekend. So
that's true, but I think the verdict is still out. Yes, they won the race, but we're going to go to a track like Richmond. He's won there 3 times, but he has not done well there in recent years. Bristol's another one that he just doesn't do well. So I think the verdict's still out. I'm not quite sure they're quite back to where they want to be.
Yeah, after the Easter break, we'll head to 2 short track races, Bristol and then Richmond. But coming up on the show today, we'll have our surprises. We'll have we'll talk who's our championship favorites, who's our favorite teams heading in after the Easter break. My biggest surprise is that Robbie Mays did well in fantasy racing last week.
89.
So, let's give a clap for him for that because he actually did well. Rich and I didn't do too well, but Rich is still top 10 in fantasy points.
7th, actually.
We'll keep.
Rich, you're a keeper.
We'll keep talking about those storylines and more on the Inside Line after this break.
O'Reilly. If your vehicle isn't stopping like it used to, visit O'Reilly Auto Parts for the Spring Brake Deals event. Take advantage of the O'Reilly Auto Parts Do It Right rebate and get a $20 O'Reilly gift card by mail when you buy a set of Brake Best Select pads and a pair of rotors. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Limits apply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
So what are your favorite drivers really thinking? We'll tell you each weekday on NASCAR Today, midday.
Getting married has been incredible. I wish I had figured all this out sooner.
Get the latest news from the sport and the opinions of NASCAR's biggest stars.
Changing over to Ford will open up some opportunities and possibilities and some just pure potential for the team.
That's NASCAR Today, midday. Weekdays on the Motor Racing Network.
Live sports are the one true reality entertainment, where a single dramatic moment can become timeless. In NASCAR, Motor Racing Network's live broadcast elevates your senses to the sights, sounds, and struggles taking place on the racetrack.
One final lap in the Daytona 500. Joey Logano has the point. Junior crosses over.
The power of radio to the imagination of the listener. Tune in to the Motor Racing Network. Visit MRN.com for an affiliate list in your local area.
Let's talk more fantasy racing on the Inside Line. Here's Robbie and Tyler.
Top 10 in fantasy points leaving Texas last week was Ryan Blaney, who, of course, finished 12th in the race. Robbie had him on his team.
I did.
He finished with 134.5 points, which was the most on the day. Jimmy Johnson was second. Kevin Harvick was third. Kyle Larson was fourth. And finally, Dale Earnhardt Jr. scored his first top 5 in fantasy points. So that leads us to our next topic, and we're going to talk about some surprises that we've seen in the first 7 races for the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series. Rich, your biggest surprise 7 races in?
Well, the most recent biggest surprise was Ryan Blaney at Texas. I mean, for Robbie to have him on your team that was an amazing thing, because he started second. And you think that a guy that's going to start so far up, sort of like a Ryan Blaney, he's not going to finish there. Now, he didn't, but he ended up leading all those laps, which got you a ton of points. So that's one of the reasons why you did so well this past week. But as far as the season goes, my biggest surprise is Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson has been the man this year, and I can't think of another one that would be surprised. Now, you can probably say Jimmy Johnson, but he ended up winning this past weekend. But the season he's had so far this year just has not been good.
Yeah.
My biggest surprise, and it goes back to the offseason, is the fact that Carl Edwards isn't in the sport anymore. And I think, say what you want to about Joe Gibbs Racing this year, I think Carl's absence has made a huge difference in what we've seen on track for the Joe Gibbs cars this year. I mean, you've got Daniel Suarez, who's a great young talent, but he's not Carl Edwards. He hasn't been there at the upper echelon of the sport for all these years. So for me, Tyler and Rich, my big surprise is the fact that Carl Edwards isn't in the sport this year.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go back to it, I mean, that's second to only or close second would be what Ganassi's done this year.
I kind of would piggyback off of that. I think the biggest surprise right now is that Joe Gibbs Racing isn't the best team in the sport.
Yeah.
I mean, they at the end of last year they were the best team in the sport. Of course, you looked at Team Penske, they were strong last year. Furniture Row Racing with Martin Truex Jr., they were strong. And I was texting you last week, how can Martin Truex Jr. be so strong and have the alliance with Joe Gibbs Racing, yet Joe Gibbs Racing has not been great all year long?
I can't answer that question. I absolutely do not know the answer to that one. But let's talk about Joe Gibbs, since you're bringing that up. Joe Gibbs Racing, we've been at mile and a halfs most of this season so far. But I think where you're going to see Joe Gibbs Racing shine this year will be on the short track. So that's the way they were last year as well. If you remember, they had really good numbers when they were at the short tracks. And let's see how Kyle Busch performed at Martinsville. It was he and Brad Keselowski battling it out for the lead there at the end of that one. So when we go to Richmond and Bristol, I wouldn't say that Joe Gibbs Racing will be out to lunch for those.
Well, Richmond's probably one of Kyle Busch's best racetracks, and I'm definitely starting him at Bristol.
Well, Kyle won at Martinsville last year. Carl won at Richmond and at Bristol, and Harvick won Bristol in August. But then it was Jimmy Johnson and Martin. I wouldn't think that the Gibbs cars will be better on the short tracks. For me, the Gibbs cars always excel on the mile-and-a-half racetracks, and that's why it's surprising that they're not doing as well this year. They had the top 5 from Matt Kenseth at Atlanta a couple of weeks ago. But that was a fluke. He was down 2 laps for most of that race, and he was able to battle back through. But for what happened on Sunday afternoon, for their best car to be 15th, that's shocking to me. There's something going on, no matter what you say.
Yeah, when I went through notes going through this show and looking at what we've seen in results and fantasy standings over the past 7 races, Joe Gibbs Racing has 2 top 10s in fantasy racing, and that's Kyle Busch, and that's it. I mean, Brad Keselowski. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys at the top with 6 top 10s in fantasy. We've only had 7 races. That's Brad Keselowski, Chase Elliott, Martin Truex Jr., Kyle Larson, Joey Logano. Those right there are the guys who have 6 top 10s so far this year. And a guy, like you said, Kyle Larson sticks out, being a surprise this year. But Chase Elliott's right up there.
Yeah, Chase Elliott is, as far as the Hendrick camp, he is the guy that's leading the way.
Yep.
Chase Elliott, I've had him several times on my fantasy team this year, and it's paid dividends. I think I had him at Las Vegas. and he won one of the one of the stage races, and he led a ton of laps, and I ended up getting a whole lot of points out of Chase Elliott. But the rest of those guys, I have stayed away from. It would have been all right to have Jimmy Johnson this past week, but who would have started Jimmy Johnson if, unless you're a big fan of Jimmy, who would have started Jimmy Johnson this past week at Texas?
Well, he is a 6-time winner at Texas, but when he spun out on Friday during qualifying, I'm like, I'm not going to put him on my team because he's going to start at the back, a new surface you're not going to be able to pass. Last year, guys, Chase Elliott was my guy who I picked up early in the season for cheap on NASCAR.com. And he picked up the pace as season went on, and he was eventually, now he's one of the most expensive guys in the sport. This year for me, that guy is Clint Boyer. Clint Boyer got top 10 finishes at Martinsville. He had a top 10 finish at Auto Club Speedway. He had a top 5 finish at Auto Club Speedway. Didn't get the top 10 last weekend at Texas, but for me, guys, Clint Boyer, he's been on my team for a while this year. He's been gold for me.
Yeah, and he was the 9th best in fantasy at Atlanta. Looking at Stewart-Haas Racing, they made the switch to Ford in the offseason. We saw Harvick, who dominated Atlanta, did not win the race, but he had, 200 and some fantasy points, which is the highest fantasy point day we've seen all year long. You look at Clint Boyer is probably the second best car in that stable right now, even though Kurt Busch won the Daytona 500. Don't you agree, Rich?
Oh, yeah, but they had all those battery issues for the West Coast swing. I want to say this real quick. We had Chad Canals on NASCAR Live earlier this week, and something that he said that really stood out to me is that he said when you go on that West Coast swing, if you're off, you're going to be off for those 3 races. And I think that's what we saw with some of those guys like Harvick, like Kurt Busch. But if you're on, you're going to perform well at California, Phoenix, and Las Vegas. Now those guys are back. They've had a chance to work on their stuff, and you're going to see these teams that we're kind of surprised that are not doing well come back and do something.
I'll say this, for Kurt Busch to recover last week at Texas and get a 10th place finish, that stopped a streak of 4 straight races of 24th or worse.
Yeah, that's big. And we've been discussing teams, this entire time since we've been on the show today. We're going to continue that topic and discuss who's the best team in the garage after the break. This is the Inside Line Fantasy Racing Show presented by Hercules Tires.
Whatever you drive, wherever you go, Hercules Tires will get you there, whether you're running on dirt or running a job. Our dependable, high-quality tires are the perfect fit for your needs. For unmatched value, selection, and warranty with industry-leading road hazard protection, there's only one choice: Hercules Tires. To learn more, visit HerculesTire.com or call 800-677-9535. Hercules Tires, ride on our strength.
On the racetrack, you can only go as far as your engine can take you. It's the same on the highway. Making a run with the Detroit engine under the hood gives you the industry-leading fuel economy, reliability, and durability your business needs. The Detroit DD13, DD15, and DD16 engine solutions are specifically engineered to make a run as profitable as possible. Don't just want better business solutions, demand them. Learn more at demanddetroit.com.
When the smoke settles, the entertainment never stops.
And that you're supposed to be having fun.
On race weekends, your favorite NASCAR personality is an everyday superhero.
The Superman colors with Jimmy Johnson.
But when they leave the racetrack, they're just like everyone else.
So I have to challenge myself more to stay balanced with my personal and professional life.
I'm Susie Armstrong. Join me on a daily journey as we discuss the hot topics and engaging personalities of NASCAR Nation. Ned Jarrett's World of Racing, weekdays on the Motor Racing Network.
Let's talk more fantasy racing on the Inside Line. Once again, here's Frick and Frack.
One of our favorite things to read each and every week on the MRN.com is Pistol Pete Pistone's power rankings, and currently right now his top 10, and we can kind of debate this, guys, as far as who we think are the best as far as performances so far this year. He has Brad Keselowski number 1, Kyle Larson number 2, Joey Logano number 3, Chase Elliott 4, Martin Truex Jr. 5, Kyle Busch 6, Jamie McMurray 7th, Kevin Harvick 8th, Clint Boyer 9th, and Jimmy Johnson 10th. And Rich, we talked earlier before the show. We probably don't agree with number 1. Do you?
No, I do not agree with number 1. Now, I think the reason why, how about that? The reason why he's probably got Brad Keselowski at number 1 is because he's the only 2-time winner this year. But Kyle Larson, you got to put him at number 1. We're 7 races into the season, and twice Kyle Larson has finished outside of the top 2. I mean, that's Martinsville and Daytona. And at Daytona, he almost won. He ran out of gas there on the final lap, and so he would have either got that win or had a really good finish there. But I think Kyle Larson is your guy right now. It should be number one. I don't think Pete's right on that one.
What do you think, Robbie?
I can see both ways. I can see Brad being number one simply
too.
because he has the 2 wins, and he's been one of the dominant cars, all season long. Kyle Larson has the win, but Brad has 2, so 2 outweighs 1. For me, the biggest issue I see in the top 10 right here is Kyle Busch. There's no reason why Kyle Busch should be 6 on this list.
No.
I don't think he should be in the top 10. That's how bad Kyle Busch is, just other than Martinsville, where he led a bunch of laps.
Oh, he led Phoenix, too.
Okay, Phoenix.
Yeah.
But still, I don't think, when I look at the top 10 cars in the sport right now, the 18 is not one
I
of
think
them.
he's in
But
the
look
top
at
10.
look at Las Vegas, though. Las Vegas, he was running second, third, and then that happened between he and Joey Logano. I mean, I hate to say ifs and buts and all that, but it was the final lap, and he and Joey Logano got together. He would have gotten a good finish out of that one.
Well, you also say about Las Vegas, Brad Keselowski could have easily won that race too. Brad could be sitting here with 3 wins, 7 races in the season.
I think my biggest issue with the top 10 is one that is absent, and I'm trying to figure out why he's absent, and that's Ryan Blaney.
Yeah.
How is Ryan Blaney not in the top 10? He has 4 fantasy finishes in the top 10 this year. So if you want to go back to fantasy racing tied in the show, he is, I said the top 6. There's 6 guys who have 6 top 10s. Blaney falls right down into the 4th, and then you have Kevin Harvick, who's 3rd. Jimmy Johnson has 3 top 10s, and Jamie McMurray, those have 3 top 10s. Those 3 guys are in the top 10 right now on power rankings, but Ryan Blaney's not. He has 4 top 10 finishes.
I wouldn't put him in the top 5, but he should be in the latter part of it, maybe 9th or 10th. I agree.
Yeah.
That was a great performance he had at Las Vegas.
What do you think, Robbie?
I absolutely think he should be in the top 10. I think he should be in the top 5. I really do.
Really?
No.
To me, the 21 car this year, I mean, I like them better than I like the Gibbs cars right now.
Yeah, but he doesn't have any Gibbs cars in the top 5.
Well,
I mean, his top 5 is Truex is 5th, Chase Elliott's 4th, Joey Logano 3rd, Kyle Larson 2nd, and Brad Keselowski. Those 5 right there, I definitely think are your top 5, no matter what combination they are between Brad Keselowski, Kyle Larson, your top 2.
All right.
I think.
We agree to disagree.
All right, so who right now is the best team in the garage?
Team Penske.
Whether it be a 4-car team, a 2-car team, whatever you think.
I think Ganassi. I mean, look at Jamie McMurray. I mean, we're seeing better stuff out of him this year. But Larson obviously is leading the way. So I'm going to say Ganassi. I mean, I know it's neck and neck between Penske, but I don't know. It's a toss-up. But I'm going to have to say Ganassi over that.
To me, the most consistent team is Team Penske.
Yep.
Between Brad and between Joey. Say what you want to about Larson. He's having an outstanding season. Jamie McMurray's having a good year too. But every week, it's always been Brad and Joey that have been up there in the top 5, qualifying up front, leading laps, winning races. I think Team Penske's the best.
It's not
team out there.
it's not just the fact that they're qualifying well. If they run into trouble during the day, they're coming back and finishing in the top 5. We saw it at Auto Club Speedway. I mean, Brad Keselowski had a wrecked race car essentially and finished 2nd in that race.
He had a wrecked race car before the green flag flew that day.
That was a championship performance, and he did the same thing at Martinsville, winning the race. He had he was speeding on pit road, came back and won the race. Joey Logano's performance at Martinsville might be the performance of the year for me.
Yeah.
He went down 2 laps, with whatever happened. He had the flat tire, I guess. He also had a penalty on pit road. So we had 2 faults there at Martinsville and still finished in the top 5. I mean, these guys at Team Penske know how to win championships. I think Furniture Row Racing is a quiet number 3 with Martin Truex Jr. and the way Eric Jones is racing right now. But I definitely would put Chip Ganassi in that 2nd spot. But those are my top 3, and it's amazing to think that Chip Ganassi Racing right now is better than Hendrick Motorsports. That's unbelievable.
That is unbelievable. I would have never guessed starting this season out that you would say Ganassi is far and away better than Hendrick Motorsports. But again, we're still fairly early in this season.
Yeah.
We're going to really start to see some changes when we get to Richmond and Bristol.
Well, how many times last year did we sit here, Tyler, in this room and say, Hendrick's not going to, they're done. Junior was out of the car. Casey Kane wasn't winning races. Jeff Gordon was out. Chase Elliott was in. Chase was close to winning some races last year, but if it wasn't for the 48, I mean, what would Hendrick Motorsports have been able to do last year?
Well,
I mean, they barely just made 1 car to the Final 4.
I can't say that Hendrick Motorsports is completely far off because Jimmy Johnson just won the race. Chase Elliott has been good all year long. So, and of course, Dale Earnhardt Jr. got a top 5.
Right.
Yeah. So, I think you're going to see Hendrick Motorsports start to creep closer to Chip Ganassi Racing here. But the thing that's interesting is that you look, so the 2 biggest teams in the sport as far as total amount of cars, that are Joe Gibbs Racing has 4. Hendrick Motorsports have 4. Those 2 are struggling. Team Penske, Chip Ganassi Racing, Furniture Row Racing, they have 2 cars in their stable, and they're not struggling. Is there something to maybe spreading your resources too thin to 4 cars rather than honing it in on 2?
See, I thought Furniture Row would struggle more this year because they were going to 2 cars.
Okay.
You know?
I tell you who's benefited going to 2 cars is JTG Doherty Racing.
Yep.
I mean, look at what Chris Buescher. I mean, if you've had him, he's like $9.
Yep.
Well, at least I've got him locked in at $9. But, you know, being with A.J. Allmendinger, both those guys are doing pretty well. And they started at Martinsville. Look at Chris Buescher was running well. He finished 11th at Martinsville. He had a great run going at Texas, and he had some problems there at the end. But both those teams, I mean, as far as maybe a lower tier team, those guys are starting to show improvement.
You know the other team who's benefited going to 2 cars this year?
Roush
Fenway Racing.
Yep. That was the point I was going to make. Going from 3 to 2 and maybe honing in your resources on 2 cars has definitely helped Roush Fenway Racing, in my opinion. So those are some of the teams that we're going to look at. We're also going to look at some of our championship favorites early on here, 7 races in, heading into the Easter break. We're going to get these guys' top 4 heading to Homestead right now here on the Inside Line Fantasy Racing Show presented by Hercules Tires.
O'Reilly.
If your vehicle isn't stopping like it used to, visit O'Reilly Auto Parts for the Spring Brake Deals event. Take advantage of the O'Reilly Auto Parts Do It Right rebate and get a $20 O'Reilly gift card by mail when you buy a set of Brake Best Select pads and a pair of rotors. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Limits apply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Being there matters. And your United States Navy protects and defends America on the world's oceans. Around the globe, around the clock, Navy ships, submarines, aircraft, and most importantly, tens of thousands of America's finest young men and women are ready to defend America when piracy threatens global commerce, when disaster strikes, or when called upon by the Commander-in-Chief. Your Navy is there. When it comes to protecting and defending America, being there matters. And America's Navy is already there.
Online and on the air, MRN is live from the track on MRN.com and the MRN app. Check out all MRN race broadcasts, pole qualifying and practices, plus exclusive motorsports programming live on your computer or mobile device. Or go to MRN.com to find your local radio station's online stream. Don't miss a second of NASCAR racing action. Listen live online at MRN.com, the MRN app, or your local station.
Let's talk more fantasy racing on the Inside Line.
Welcome back to the Inside Line Fantasy Racing Show presented by Hercules Tires. I'm Robbie Mace. He is Rich Colbreth. He is Taylor Burnett. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Let's play it, guys. Under a rock or Tyler?
Do you live your life up under a rock? Or are you Tyler Burnett?
I go back to it last summer when I built that sweeper. Everyone was like, how'd you find photos of him doing that? I'm like, that was the easy part. I had tons of photos of him doing that. Made it into a GIF.
I'm ready to butcher another one. Let's do it.
Okay, so this is a screen grab from a movie. I need you to name anything. Just name anything. If you say it's a movie, I will accept that.
Okay. Really?
Not really.
No.
No. So Donald, Daryl, let's cue it up and let's play Under Rock or Tyler. It's themed for this weekend.
Great movie.
Probably going to be on TV tomorrow night.
For this weekend?
Yes. You should know this.
That's probably one of the coolest guys you'll ever know.
Who's
as far as
who's
an
the
actor.
character?
I can't tell you.
Nope.
You have to name something about it.
Is it something
about one of the greatest actors of all time?
Is it like the Passion of the Christ or something?
No.
No.
No? Okay, so it's themed for this weekend. What do you mean?
That is Charlton Heston as Moses from the movie The Ten Commandments.
Oh, I've never seen that movie.
No. Well, yeah.
I mean, I was pretty close with Passion of the Christ. I mean, that's themed for this weekend,
Yeah,
right?
That's
right.
That's not right.
At least I didn't butcher it
Good-
too bad. I'm
good
sorry.
try. Good try.
All right. Rango? Should we do Rango now? Let's bring in Rango.
Well, what's Rango? Yeah, what's Rango got to say?
I don't know.
Let's see what he's got to say.
Producer Daryl said to bring in Rango, so we're going to Rango.
Rango.
Oh, look, guys!
Oh, he's got. Oh, look
Aw.
at that. We got little
Chicken
chocolate.
It's Cadbury cream eggs.
Yay!
Oh. These are my favorite.
Oh, and he's got a letter
There's
for
a
us.
message.
It's got a message for us. I wonder if it's like you guys suck at fantasy. I've been doing better than you all year. Or something.
Rango Fowler is an enabler with this, okay?
Oh, I'm going to eat one.
Oh, I'm totally going to eat one. I'm just saying.
All right, here we go. Here's the message from Rango Fowler. Rabbits do not lay eggs, so why did they get all the love for hiding them during Easter? Chickens do the real work. #WarChicken. Here are some eggs for you yo-yos. Tyler only gets one if he correctly answered under the rock, and of course I did not.
No, so you get none.
You get none.
You get none.
Rich and I are going to split those. Well, I'm only going to have one.
All right, so Easter break.
Thank you, Rango.
We're heading to Bristol after that.
Yep.
Right now, your championship favorites. Go.
You were saying a while ago the 4. So can I give you the 4 that I think
ahead.
is going to?
Give me your
Okay,
4 for
I'm thinking
Homestead
Brad
and your
Keselowski will be in the 4.
Yep.
Okay.
I think Chase Elliott will be in the 4.
Yep.
I think he makes his debut this year. Joey Logano. And I debated between Truex or Jimmy Johnson. I realized that we were talking, junk about Jimmy, that he hasn't done well this season. But you got to think Jimmy Johnson, when it comes time to turn it on, that team knows how to make it happen. But I'm going to put Martin Truex Jr. in that final spot for my final 4. And in the championship, Brad Keselowski.
Wow. All right. Robbie Mays?
I think my top 4 mirror what the point standings look like right now for the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series. I think Larson, I think Chase Elliott, I think Truex, and I think Brad. I think those 4 teams, they have the mindset in place to go like the way they've been going all season long. They've been the dominant cars all season long. I think their crew chiefs are smart enough to be able to play the playoff points, be able to play stage points to get them to Homestead for the Final 4. So I think those 4 guys, if you look at the playoff points so far this year, guys, I mean, it's Brad Keselowski, it's Martin Truex Jr. Those are the guys who have been playing the playoff points the best of anybody. So I see no reason for that to stop for the rest of the year.
I just think that Larson, what we saw last year, he choked. He and his teammate got to the Dover, and they just absolutely choked. So I'm wondering,
that
they just don't have the. Well, okay. Well, the old saying is you got to lose one to win one.
Right.
So maybe they do get it turned around, but until I see that, I'm not quite sure if I want to go with Ganassi to make it all the way to the Final 4.
Some things you have to think about. If Larson wins the regular season championship, that is a lot of playoff bonus points that he carries throughout.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we don't know if Kyle Larson's going to win the regular season championship or not. Someone else could, but right now,
doing what he's doing right now.
He could carry 15 playoff points or something that the regular season champion gets, and then carries it on.
Yeah.
And then I also look at the tracks that you have in the chase at the end. You have Phoenix going to Homestead.
Finish second.
If Kevin Harvick's there, he's most likely going to advance.
I wouldn't say that. I thought
we thought last year.
Yeah, that's what we thought last time we were there. No, but last time we were there, we were thinking, okay, Kevin Harvick's a lock. I'm going to have him on my team. He didn't perform that well.
He still finished 4th.
Well, he did, but he didn't lead all the laps. You're right. I mean, he does well there, but he didn't dominate like we thought he would. So anything can happen.
The best car at Phoenix was Kyle Busch. If Kyle Busch gets to the round at Phoenix, does he advance? I mean, that's some of the things you have to look at.
Well,
Ryan Blaney has been good. Could he surprise?
If you're looking at the round of 8, Martinsville, Kyle Larson finished 17th, but he was second at both Texas and at Phoenix.
Yeah, so I guess my 4 is based kind of off what the tracks look like. So I have Kyle Larson in because I think if he wins the regular season championship, he advances through the playoffs pretty easily. I think Brad Keselowski, he's the second best car in my opinion right now. I think he goes. I think Kevin Harvick, just because I think that team figures things out. He gets to Phoenix. He moves on from there. And then I think Martin Truex Jr. That's my top 4. So
okay.
I hate to take Joey Logano off the list. He has 6 top 10s in fantasy points right now. So that would be pretty stout.
Why not Chase, though? Neither one of y'all had Chase in there.
I have Chase.
Oh, okay. So
I
you
don't
didn't have
think
Chase.
he's ready for the playoffs yet.
Okay.
To advance.
So Kyle Larson is ready for the playoffs, though.
Well, with how consistent he is right now, yeah.
Okay.
Long way to go, but my concern about Kyle Larson, I mean, he does well at Bristol, so I'll definitely want to have him on my team there. But then we go to Richmond. I'm not sure if I want him on my team at Richmond. There's some other tracks that are coming up that I'm not quite sure that Larson's just going to level off.
Y'all, the biggest wild card we've got coming up here is Talladega in about a month from right now. And, I mean, the whole series standings could be totally out of whack by the time we get there.
All right, Bristol picks. Go quickly. We got about 20 seconds.
Larson.
Watch next week.
Oh, wow. I like Kyle Busch, I think he gets his first win of the year.
See, now if I take Kyle Busch next week, you're going to steal.
All right, happy Easter, everyone. Have a good weekend. We'll talk to you next week on the Inside Line. Rich is going to eat all this chocolate. And we'll give you our Bristol picks next week. This is the Inside Line Fantasy Racing Show. Thanks for everything. We'll talk to you next week.
You've been listening to the Inside Line presented by Hercules Tires. Stream us every Friday on MRN.com or the MRN app. The Inside Line is also available on demand in the MRN.com Media Center, on our Facebook page, on YouTube, or download it through iTunes or Google Play. The Inside Line is a production of the Motor Racing Network.